Alright everyone, so we have perhaps maybe the biggest news ever in movie news history, especially for you all Looney Tunes fans out there, and that is with Coyote Vs Acme, the live-action Looney Tunes movie has officially been saved. It is finally getting released. I mean to like hooray to that, because especially if you know the ongoing battle between especially with Warner Brothers and the story for how they shelved this movie for a tax write-off. But now, especially, it is finally getting released by Ketchup Entertainment. And so I'm going to be breaking down the timeline of events, how it led to this moment, and especially for what we look forward to now, especially as we are getting Coyote vs. Acme probably next year. And so, if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so it's on any future vids. But now, let's hop right into it. And now, where do I begin? Well, back in late 2023 in November, when it was announced that Warner Brothers canceled Coyote vs. Acme, which is a live-action Looney Tunes movie, and they shelved it for a tax write-off to save $30 million. Now, especially if you're unaware of what this movie is, with Coyote vs. Acme, which is a live-action movie part of the Looney Tunes brand, and especially it was going to feature a Wile E. Coyote in live action, especially as it involves him with the Acme Corporation, especially as it had actors like Will Forte and John Cena, which a pretty interesting concept to me, and the fact that this is being turned into live action, especially if you know any live-action Looney Tunes movies that have come out, especially with Space Jam: A New Legacy, but now, especially with the Coyote vs. Acme, that had VFX work done, it was finished, it had positive test screenings by people who have seen the movie, that is in the industry, of course. But now with Warner Brothers, that is now shelved the movie entirely, and it was such a bummer for us as fans, because even though with Looney Tunes, that is such a popular brand, and especially this whole franchise has become of these characters that we all know and love to come, I would love to see this movie. And now, especially as later down the line in early 2024, the following year, which was a year ago, is that Warner Brothers had offers to sell the movie to other buyers, and that's with other movie studios. I'm talking about Paramount, Sony, Universal, Netflix, Apple TV, and anything that they could think of, and they want to sell this movie to other distributors, and especially as they had the price tag of $70 million, I think it took to produce. It's what it cost to make, especially with other studios that turned down that offer, because especially as they had shelved it for a $30 million tax write-off, and now to sell it for even bigger numbers, that's so expensive, especially for a Looney Tunes movie that is live action, to sell for that kind of price range. Especially we never know if that movie was going to be in theaters or released on streaming, or to risk it being a box office flop, especially if you know Warner Brothers and their history with box office flops, if you know what I'm talking about. And now, especially as this has been an ongoing battle for the past 2 years, especially for which studio would get it, and it was such arguments back and forth, and even though people would have loved to see Coyote vs. Acme, everyone would have loved to see this movie be into existence, because even though if this movie was released 2 years ago, it probably would have made so much money, especially as the Looney Tunes fans would have showed up to this movie day one, showed up and supported it. Especially for what we've heard about the movies, that with Coyote vs. Acme, people described it as a heartfelt story. It had emotions, heart, great stuff that we all love about Looney Tunes in general. But even though I'm not that big of a Looney Tunes guy, but even though I love Looney Tunes a little bit, especially as I know Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, and every other IP within the Looney Tunes brand. And now, especially with the biggest news story of all, that's right, is that with Ketchup Entertainment has all been sold Coyote vs. Acme from Warner Brothers for $50 million. And now, this is a big deal, because especially if you're unaware of what Ketchup Entertainment is, they've been a studio for a while, because especially as recently they released the Looney Tunes movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, which didn't do exact numbers, but it did do enough numbers for Warner Brothers to notice that film and probably say, oh, let's sell this movie to another studio with Ketchup Entertainment to distribute the film from there. And now, this is where a big question comes in, and that is, will this movie perform well? And now that's finally going to be released to the public, and now it's saying like, man, like it is going to be released worldwide, globally next year in 2026, and that is a big deal, because especially if you look at the slate for next year in 2026, we have a massive load of movies, especially to consider if you attach a Looney Tunes live action movie in the mix, people are going to show up to this movie day one and probably give it some money. But especially if you know the Looney Tunes brand of what it has become, it's like a giant fan base. And considering with Coyote Vs Acme and for the way that story was going to be played out, with Ketchup Entertainment in general, they have put out some good stuff, especially as like this was in the works for them to be sold, the movie by Warner Brothers themselves, because especially if you know them as like a company for what people have said behind the scenes, because especially after like the news of like showing the movie, people wanted to boycott Warner Brothers, but it's been an ongoing debate and like argument for who would get this movie after it has been shelved. But now with this live action movie that is now finally coming, for what we can expect from it, can it have a big marketing campaign? We don't know, but I'm pretty sure it will, because especially if you if you're all watching or like a big all-time diehard Looney Tunes fan, I'm pretty sure like you all would spread the word on social media. Especially, I encourage Ketchup Entertainment to probably do the same, because especially for what the storyboard and everything that has been laid out, especially when the movie does come out in 2026, it's sure going to get positive reviews, but in order for this movie to succeed at the box office and to get a good Rotten Tomatoes score, people have to encourage everyone to go out and support this movie and give their money, because it's especially as, I mean, fans have been protesting for them to release this movie and to save it, especially as, this movie was like shelved by a studio, and now with a live action Looney Tunes movie and that has come out from the dead, and now it's now officially being released globally, worldwide, not in like in limited theaters or limited release. No, they're releasing it worldwide for everyone to see. For what Warner Brothers have feared of, especially with selling this movie, is that like they were worried about other studios distributing the film with the Warner Brothers name on it. They would slap on it and it could kind of like sell up to other buyers. Sometimes isn't the case with Warner Brothers, considering what they've done in the past, especially with shelving movies. Look at what they did with Batgirl, and especially with Coyote Vs Acme, that was also the big one. But especially with one out of the two movies, it's finally getting released. I mean, it is a live-action Looney Tunes movie, and people are die-hard fans of it. We can officially look forward to it now as movie fans. I think we can all celebrate right now as Looney Tunes fans, especially for fans who are casual moviegoers. With this movie that is now finally being sold, and I think Warner Brothers, I think they definitely made the right call of selling it to Ketchup Entertainment, because they knew how a success that Ketchup did by releasing a Looney Tunes movie like weeks prior. I'm excited to see the story of Coyote getting back at the Acme Corporation for selling them faulty products, especially with the cast and especially with the layout and the visuals for what we're going with here. I think we're in for a treat, guys. We're in for a big, massive treat and ride for this movie as well. So thank God it is finally saved, and we can all celebrate big major W's right now. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what your thoughts on this, especially now that Coyote Vs Acme has been saved. And are you looking forward to a live-action Looney Tunes movie in 2026? That is with this movie, Coyote Vs Acme. Just let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and turn on notifications about future videos. Also follow all my social media. It's all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.